My name is Joseph Olmer, and I was born in a small town in Poland named Harsnica.
Tell me about your family, your father, your mother, and your brothers and sisters.
I have 6 kids in our family. My father, my mother, and 6 kids. 2 boys and 4 girls. I remember the whole family was walking, and all of a sudden we see the Germans on motorcycles. So my father, I don't know the reason why, but he got scared, and he grabbed my youngest sister, and he started to run. He started to run, and the Germans saw that somebody is running, they start shooting after him. And then some officer came in behind with another motorcycle, and he started to holler to the first one to stop shooting because there's a father with a young child running. So they stopped shooting, and we were sitting in the barn, and that's all. They didn't do anything to us. It took us about 2 days to locate my father. So finally we located my father with my sister, and we all got together again, and we walked another few hours, and we were in Harsnica. So they took us to Melk, and it was another camp. It was, the camp was, in Mauthausen, where they had a big pile of shoes. And everybody went by, they grabbed a pair of shoes, and they throw you a pair of shoes.
Right.
I was very lucky, and I got a pair of ski shoes.
That fit.
Beautiful ski shoes. And I said, gee, this is going to be my
Your
luck.
salvation, yeah.
Finally, I got to the Melk, to the camp, and the Blackfear, the guy who was in charge of the barrack,
Right.
he had give an order to everybody, no shoes under the pillow. All the shoes you got to keep underneath the bunk bed.
They could steal them.
That's what happened. So in the morning I got up. I had the shoes on for a couple weeks. I had the shoes. And there was one couple. He was a German, a political prisoner.
Right.
They had different marks.
Yeah.
They had like a green triangle.
Right.
And then, there's a political prisoner. And this guy, he loved my shoes. And
That's the end of the shoes.
he was after the shoes, but he didn't stay. They stayed in different barracks.
Yeah.
But if he found a place how to get in, maybe, and he got the shoes. I got up in the morning. This is in the winter. I haven't got no shoes. I go over to the guy who is in charge of the barrack, and I said, I got to go to work. I said, I haven't got no shoes. Well, he says, he give me some rags, and that's it. So I went out to work. We had to go by train from camp to the workplace.
Right.
Yeah. And this was in the winter.
No
And it was
shoes.
cold. When we got there, we were building. There were big mountains, woods on the top of the mountains, and we were building tunnels, digging tunnels. And we used to do the concrete work, everything. So the winter was very hard, and waiting sometimes 2-3 hours for a train to come and pick us up. The people were dying. We have to carry the dead people back. Sometimes a lot of them died on the way out to work. So when we got to work, we put them in behind some shed. And by the time we go to pick them up, they didn't have enough clothes on. Because
They stole the clothes.
stole the clothes off, sure. So over there, I took my cement bags, and I put over my feet. And that's what I was wearing for maybe a week.
A week? You went without shoes?
Without shoes. Finally, I got a pair of old shoes they gave me, but I still had to put the cement bags over.
Right.
Because it was very cold. But here we didn't have no warm uniforms, only the striped uniforms. And that's the way we work. People were dying on the way to work and on the way home to work, and people were scared. I always try to be in the front line, in the front four. So people in the back of me, they have to pick them up and carry them.
Oh, so you wouldn't have to carry people. You were how old at this time?
And this time already I was about 17, 18.
And this lasted how long
And that came,
at Mauthausen?
this was Milk.
Oh, Milk, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Milk, we were there a few months. And then in Milk, they had some dentists or whoever they were, I don't know who they were, they took the whole barrack one day, they lined up the whole barrack and pulled teeth. Back teeth. Only the back teeth they pulled.
With gold in them, or just they
No,
just pulled
no
them out
gold.
just for nothing?
I know. I had 4 teeth missing in the back.
Now, what was the purpose for
They
pulling
were,
out
they were learning maybe. I don't know, who knows. So one day I got the line. I tried and I got away. But they had a list, and 2 days later they came into the barrack and they called me out. And that's why they pulled my back teeth.
Did they give you anesthesia for that, or they just
No,
they just pulled them out with no anesthesia?
no anesthesia. They pulled everybody. After this, you know, we refused. People refused because they didn't force us, but the
didn't
people
force
said
you.
no, we don't want to go.
This is hard to understand at this time. That
And just walked out, and that's all. And we went to sleep in the morning. If you see, nobody's waking us up, nothing. It's already daylight out there. We tried to look out through the window because you don't want to open up the window too far and look up because you get shot through the window. And we don't see anybody in the guard boats out on the top. It looked strange. So little by little, people start to walk out from the barracks and walking around, and they look in the outside by the electric wires. There were all electric wires there. And we see old men with rifles walking around.
it's the Wehrmacht.
No more SS. And then people start to come out more and more, and they really was scared. They were talking to us, that you go back, you behave yourself. Pretty soon he said the people from the town are going to come and they're going to start give you to eat.
Because the Wehrmacht told you this?
Yeah. So it didn't take maybe 2 hours later, the first American tank came up there and he broke into the wires through the gate.
Because really, I never sit with them and spoke about my past, what I lived through. I had no guts to do that. Then, about my mother, I didn't finish. The ghetto was still existing until 1943. In 1943, my mother walked over from the ghetto to the camp, and she knew she's going to go. That's the last chance. She couldn't go in to speak to me, but through the wire fence, she stuck her hand through the wire. She put her hand on my head, and she blessed me. And she said, God, I beg you, leave something. Please, let her live. And that was the last time I saw her. The next day, she was killed. The clothes from the cemetery was brought to our camp, and we had to assort it. And her coat was among the clothes, so I know this is it. And of course, we decided to go further, and this lady from Scarlet knew her way. We went to a little village where she knew the people. And those people said, you know what, you are going to stay in my basement, hide here. There we staying in the basement for a while, and after a day or so, a Ukrainian police comes over, and he says, oh, Jews, Židé, you better give us everything you have, whatever you. My mother gave me a pair of golden earrings, and I remember whatever we had.
You gave them?
We gave him. and it was still daylight. And we knew the soon he got that from us, he's going to come back after us. He doesn't want us to be alive. We decided to run in the daylight. We ran, and a good thing it was September. They didn't pick up the wheat from the
fields.
From the fields. It was still very high. And we were running, and all the kids from town were throwing stones on us and said, "Jide,
These are the Ukrainians.
The Ukrainians.
The children.
Like the children. They were taught that way. Like, you know, there was many times that I wish I wouldn't be human. I would be a hazard. I would be better off. They were throwing stones and calling us names. I got very sick once. I didn't finish before we went on the ground.
Go ahead.
I was still up the ground.
Right.
And I was laying what I tied together for me, that little house. I got very ill with high fever, and I had typhus. I was so ill that they, from the nearby places, there was a lot of groups, we divided in groups, knew that I have typhus, and everybody was afraid to go near me.
Contagious, very contagious.
It was very contagious. Of course, there was an old man, at that time he must have been 50 or something.
Old man, 50, right?
And his name was Herschel Kutcher. He wasn't a nice man before the war. He was a gunner. And that's the truth. Not in my town, but in Scarlet. He was the one who said he couldn't talk, he didn't have one tooth in his mouth. And he said, I gotta give that girl a little bit of water and a piece of bread. And he picked me up by my hair. And he gave me a drink of water all the time. I shouldn't die.
Shouldn't dehydrate.
Dehydrate. Right where I was laying, I took a red sweater off, what was made by hands with all the colors, and I hanged it on that tree because I was full of lice. And it must have been my high fever. I am not exaggerating, but that seemed to me, when I looked at the tree, I saw my mother. I was imagining. Then, after a while, two men from Scarlet, they are alive, they are in New Jersey. Their name is Sass. They're two brothers. They came with big shovels to bury me because I was very sick and I didn't speak and nothing. And it must have something happened. I just woke up, the fever must have broke, and I made with my finger, I said, no, I'm still living. That's it. They left me alone. Then the next day, the Ukrainians came to look again for Jews. And they have to run. Everybody has to run. So they said, hey, leave her. She's dying anyways.
Right.
But the old man who gave me water took a big branch, and he made a crutch like it on one side of my hand. I couldn't walk. And the other hand, he said, you hang on to me. Hold your hand on my neck. And my feet were dragging like a dead calf. And we ran like this for 5 miles, 5 kilometers, to another spot in the woods. And he saved my life. I can say that those Christian people who lived in the woods, Kozhidla, they sent up a scissor. I had very long braids, and they were full of lice. And they said, after typhus, you have to cut your hair.
Right.
They sent up a scissor and a little bit milk and a piece of bread. I cut my hair, and I put a scarf on my head, and I figured this head will be alive. Hair will grow. And I got kind of acquainted with those people. They had 3 girls. Some of them were younger than I am, much younger. And they were far away from a town to go to school. So I used to come at night when they give me a little bread and milk, and I was reading the Bible to them about Jesus. And I taught them how to crochet. They made their own yarn. And they called me, my name was Paula, Peppa, whatever. They called me Pavlinka. Anytime she came to the woods with the cows, there wasn't far from the woods a pasture where she used to bring the cows. She'll yell, Pavlinka, and bring me a piece of bread. And that contribute to my
Your survival.
survival. We were liberated from the Russians, of course. The Germans were on the church, and the Russians were near the woods fighting with each other. And as we walked with our hands up, and of course, I spoke Russian. I mean, I went to Russian school. And one man come up, a soldier, he was a captain on a horse, who was with a cape. It's just like a fairy tale. And he says to us, are you Евреи? That means, are you Jews? And we said, yes. And he had tears in his eyes. He was a Russian Jew. The future to know about it is, if you see that people are anti-Semitic, don't let them go too far. Cut it off now and then. Don't let it go that far, because we were brought up in an anti-Semitic country, but we never believe it in a million years that this could happen. That was not only to kill a Jew or a few Jews or camps, they want to erase us from the world. If that would continue another few months, there wouldn't be nothing. He wanted to make a museum from the Torahs and everything, and they wanted to erase our name from this world.